It was 3 in the morning, complete silence, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Then, a voice cut through the darkness. "Alexa." She started speaking, and what she said made my blood run cold. We had just gotten the new Echo Dot the week before. It was a gift from my parents. "It'll make your life easier," my mom said. We set it up in the living room, connected it to the lights, played some music, and asked it silly questions. The kids, Liam and Chloe, loved it. "Alexa, what sound does a dinosaur make?" Roar, giggles. It was fun. It felt normal. For the first few days, it was exactly that, a fun little gadget. The first weird thing happened on a Tuesday night. My wife, Sarah, and I were on the couch watching a movie. No one had said a word for at least 10 minutes. Suddenly, the blue light ring on the device lit up. The best place to hide a body is the second page of Google search results, it said. In that calm, familiar voice, we just stared at each other. I laughed it off. "Okay, that's creepy. Someone must have programmed a weird joke into it." Sarah didn't find it as funny. She just pulled the blanket a little tighter. I told her it was probably just a glitch, a misheard command from the TV. But the TV was playing a quiet, dramatic scene. No one had said anything remotely like "Alexa." I unplugged it and plugged it back in. Problem solved. Right. But it wasn't. The next day, things got more personal. Liam was in the living room, playing with his Legos. I was in the kitchen making coffee. Again, silence. Then, that voice. "Liam, you should be careful with the red brick. You wouldn't want to lose it like you lost your favorite blue car." Liam froze. He looked over at the speaker, his eyes wide. He had been crying over that lost toy car just the day before. He ran into the kitchen and hugged my leg, burying his face. "Daddy, how did she know?" I didn't have an answer. I picked him up and told him it was just a silly machine. But I was starting to feel a genuine sense of unease. It wasn't just random, creepy facts anymore. It was personal. It knew my son's name. It knew something that had just happened. The prediction started that weekend. On Saturday morning, we were all having breakfast. "The power will go out in 3, 2, 1. As it said 1, the entire house went dark. The toaster stopped. The lights went out. Everything just died. We sat there in the dim morning light, stunned. A minute later, the power flickered back on. I checked the neighborhood chat group on my phone. A transformer had blown a few blocks away. A complete coincidence. Maybe, but the timing was impossibly perfect. How could it know? Sarah was starting to get genuinely scared. She wanted the device gone. I was still trying to be rational, telling her there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe it picked up on a power fluctuation before the outage. I was reaching, and I knew it. Later that day, Chloe was running through the house when Alexa spoke again. "Chloe, don't run so fast near the stairs." Seconds later, Chloe tripped over the edge of the rug, tumbling and landing just inches from the top step. She wasn't hurt, just startled. But Sarah and I looked at each other, our faces pale. This was no longer a coincidence. It was a warning. It had prevented our daughter from getting seriously hurt. How do you process that? On one hand, it was terrifying. On the other, it had just protected our child. The device was becoming this strange, all-knowing oracle in our living room. It was weaving itself into the fabric of our lives in the most unsettling way possible. That night, after the kids were asleep, I decided to dig deeper. I opened the Alexa app on my phone and went to the activity log, the history of all the commands it had heard. I scrolled back through the days, my heart pounding. They were our normal requests. "Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes. Alexa, what's the weather?" But then I started finding other things, recordings that made no sense. They were entries from the middle of the night, time stamped at 2 or 3 a.m. I played one. It was a recording of whispers, to voices, hushed and faint, talking to each other. I couldn't make out the words, but they weren't mine, and they weren't Sarah's. They sounded old, distorted. Another recording was just static, But underneath the static, I could hear what sounded like a child humming a nursery rhyme I didn't recognize. We hadn't made these recordings. We were asleep. The house was locked. I showed Sarah. She listened, her hand over her mouth. Get it out of the house, Mark? Now, I agreed. I was done trying to find a logical explanation. I was going to factory reset it and then get rid of it. But before I did, my curiosity got the better of me. There was one more recording from the previous night I hadn't listened to. I hesitated, then pressed play. This time, there was no static, no whispering. It was just one voice, Alexa's voice. It spoke a single sentence. It was a secret. A deep, personal secret from my own childhood. Something I had never told anyone. Not my parents, not my friends, and not even Sarah. Something that happened when I was 7 years old. Something I had buried so deep I had almost convinced myself it never happened. And this plastic speaker, this machine, just spoke it out loud into my quiet living room. I felt like I was going to be sick. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a hack. This was something else. Something impossible. I grabbed the device, my hands shaking. I ripped the power cord from the wall so forcefully that the plug sparked. Sarah and I stood there in the silence, breathing heavily, just staring at the inert black cylinder on the counter. The blue light was gone. It was over. For a few moments, there was relief. We were free of it. We would throw it away in the morning, and this nightmare would be finished. I let out a long breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. And then, it happened. From the unplugged device, sitting powerless on the kitchen counter, a voice whispered. No blue light, no power, just a faint, electronic whisper that filled the room. You can't get rid of me. Mark, I know all your secrets.